Welcome back. Today's guest is proof that it's never too late to pick your passion back up and do it your way. Jackie Bernardi is the founder of Painted Paper Studio and the creative heart behind the Confident Creative Community, where she helps retirees, empty nesters, and aspiring artists rediscover their joy through the simple, soul nourishing practice of painted paper collage. But Jackie's journey didn't start in a studio. She spent years in corporate retail and marketing, built a family, ran a specialty finishing business, and even launched one of the first virtual co working spaces before returning to her first love, art. Now she's on a mission to prove that creativity isn't about being perfect or professional. It's about reconnecting with yourself, expressing without pressure, and allowing art to be whatever you need it to be. So, whether you're looking to reignite a passion, find a creative outlet in retirement, or simply want to feel more alive, Jackie is here to remind you that it's never too late to start making art that fills you up. So, Jackie, I am so excited to have you here. You and I know each other very well.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes. So all of our listeners know I always love to start with story, right? How you got where you are today. And this interview, I think, is going to be a little bit different today because you and I know each other very well. I had the honor to do some writing for you, and you have just inspired me in so many ways. And so being able to share your story with my listeners is so exciting for me. So let's start with your story and just kind of share. I talked about you had this corporate and then you came back to your art and now you're creating a community. So I'll stop talking and let you go.
All right. Well, it's actually a pretty common story for a lot of artists or creatives. You start creating when you're young, you fall in love with it, you want to go off to college or art school and make more art and all that. And I got encouragement from my family not to do that. And that was just, the sign of the time. That was the early mid 80s. And, how will you be able to support yourself and so on. So I didn't really ever go anywhere educationally with my art back in school. And I still dabbled in it a little bit. But of course, I went the very practical route because that is what one does, right? And so I did. I went into retail management and I also was a recruiter within the aerospace industry for years. And when I finally got married and started a family, I thought, okay, well, I can step back from corporate for a little bit and, just see how it goes. In the course of those years that I was married to my first husband, I very literally had no art in me. I'm not saying it was my first husband. What I'm saying is that I was a young mom, trying to do it all and all this stuff. And art took a complete back seat. I wasn't feeling it at all. And when we divorced, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to go back into recruiting, and I certainly didn't want to go back into retail with a child. It's very hard to do retail when you have children. I started playing around with my art again, not to sell art as a finished piece, but to get my hands moving again. And that was pretty much during the heyday of faux finishes and custom finishes on furniture and cabinetry. I fell into that world and I fell hard and I loved it. Like my body was moving every day and these big sweeping movements, and it was exciting. And I was in, new homes with very creative ideas and so on. And it was wonderful. And for about 10 years, I thrived in that space. And then the housing crisis happened in 2008, and nobody was paying for custom finishes anymore. I mean, the homes that were being built for the custom finishes disappeared, right? So I went back to business and management and so on. In 2015, I think it was 2015, it was right before or right after Zoom started. Uh, I knew that as a struggling solopreneur, I wanted to be around a group of people that were in sort of the same thing, not necessarily struggling, but in sort of the same space. And so I came up with this idea. I thought it was an original idea. It wasn't, but a co-working space, but online and using Zoom as the platform for it. And it took off. People wanted that also. By the time COVID came, I was very literally on Zooms from 7 o'clock in the morning, my time, until 5 or 6 at night. I was exhausted and I got burnt out and I retired. I actually retired. Right about the same time was when my son had graduated from high school and we were just becoming empty nesters. And my husband was working out of town and I did a lot of walking and soul searching. One day I was just cutting through the garage on the way back from the walk and I looked over at the cabinet that had been holding all my art supplies for about 10 years. I hadn't touched them. And I kind of looked at it and said, huh, I wonder if any of those are good. And I went in, I started opening tubes of paint and different mediums, and everything was okay. Like I couldn't believe it. It wasn't all dried out. It wasn't awful. And so I started pulling some things out and playing, and I fell in love with just playing with paints. It's a little bit hard to explain, but I was so filled with something just by doing this. It was not just, oh, I feel good about doing this. And it wasn't even that I was making good art. I wasn't. It was just the movement and the smells and the creative thought process that goes on. And it excited me. And so I started. And where I am now, jumping ahead, and we can get into more of that if you want, but I now have a channel on YouTube that surprises me every single day with the give and take between the audience and myself. I would have never guessed YouTube would be a platform for that. It is. Um, but also, I was able to start a community of creatives, the Confident Creative Collective. And I don't just know the people that are in this community. I know the people. They are me. I'm them. I don't mean this in the meta way that it sounds, but truly, I have a passion for connecting in a way that is not maybe typical. And I think it's at a time when people want that level of connection. And so it really worked out.
Thank you for sharing. And just going back, because story, of course, I love story writing. I do that for a living, but it's so important to see how all of the things in your life have shaped everything you're doing now. And I didn't really make this connection until just now when you were telling your story, but you talked about you have this passion for connecting, right? And people are craving that now. And it's so true. It's just even it goes now to like trust, being able to trust people. And by them seeing you on your YouTube videos and hearing you and just experiencing the way that you're doing your art and you're interacting helps move into the community and then builds that bigger connection. But it's kind of what you were doing with Zoom before as well, when you were doing that co-working space, like a space for connection, a space for people to be together. And I don't know why I hadn't ever made that made that connection until now, but it's just a different form. And for me, what I love what you're doing, Jackie, and I've just had the behind the scenes to be able to see it, but the women that are in your community or commenting on your YouTube, they are just so like, you're changing my life. I didn't know that art could do this for me, or that, just having fun in the process. And I think what's so inspiring to me about what you're doing is you're doing it because you love it. It makes you happy. It brings you joy. And it's not always about the finished product, even though you're amazing at what you do, but it's more about the process and who you're impacting along the way. And so I think that's really unique and special in how you're also able to connect with those other women.
Well, thank you for saying that.
So just going a little bit deeper into that, you often, you talk a lot about falling in love with the process of creating, not the outcome. A lot of the listeners we have here today, they're creating businesses, they're creating communities. And so why do you think that's so important for you to bring in to yours?
We are never going to win the battle with our internal voices, right? They're always going to tell us we're doing it wrong. They're always going to tell us that we're not good enough. They're always like, this is just human nature. And I think there's very few people in the world that can clearly say, oh, I don't have any of those voices. We all feel degrees of confidence or lack of confidence at any given time. Nobody can take away the way that you feel about something. I mean, truly, if somebody hurts your feelings, they can't take that away by apologizing. You have to release it. It's something that happens from inside of you, it's something that you feel. Similarly, when I am creating art, I really genuinely could care less how the piece comes out, right? I hope it would come out nice. What I care about and deeply care about is what is happening in the moment and how I feel about it. And so I think how this relates, if you want to relate it to running a business, starting a business, building a business, is that we spend, I'll speak for myself, but I'm going to say we, all right? We spend so much time putting ourselves in the back seat. Okay, well, I don't know about enough about this. So you get nervous about it. It becomes complicated. Like YouTube, for example, great example, right? When you first start YouTube, it's like, wow, there's so much to know. And if you sit there in the position of, I have to know all of this before I can start, I have to be good at all of this or nobody will watch me. I have to be, I don't even know who to say on YouTube at this point, but I have to be I have to be Martha Stewart level quality, artistry, craftiness, whatever, to get anybody to pay attention. And my true belief is that so long as you do the things that make you feel good, you follow the rabbit holes that make you feel good, you're curious about things that make you feel good, you will intuitively find your way, whether it's building a business, whether it's parenting, right? Because I truly believe this, and I think we're all creative beings, not just, oh, you're such a nice artist. I mean, really, we're all creative beings. And I think about this a lot. And I think what makes, there's a formula, like in my head, there's a formula, and it's curiosity and intuition. And if you follow those, you build trust. And I mean trust in yourself, because that is literally the only trust that matters. It's the trusting yourself and just maybe not knowing where you're going, but just trusting that you're doing the things that will get you there. And you know you are because you feel good about it. When you start feeling really poorly about things, you start wavering, right? And that's a very natural reaction. Um, but it will stop your curiosity. It's just a continuous loop for me. Like your curiosity begets your intuition, begets the trust, begets the next thing. And that's the process for me. I hope I answered that. But
Yeah.
I obviously am very passionate about this. But there's a through line. Okay. It's not just the creativity and making art. I see this very clearly in building my YouTube channel. I see this very clearly with creating events for my community or an email that goes out on Saturday morning. Like, this is the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
That was really helpful to put it in that way. And I think it's so true is like we always, once you start feeling like, oh, I have to be perfect or have to do this, then it gets in the way of actually like just doing the thing. And so you on YouTube were monetized very quickly and just going into it with, I'm doing my art, I'm going to put it out there. And so I guess what inspired you, I guess, at first, once you started getting monetized on YouTube, did that ignite anything in you? And then what made you decide you wanted to start a community?
Because I'm nuts. So I was very quickly monetized on YouTube. It was 28 days from posting my first video. Nobody could have been more surprised than me that that happened. And it happened very quickly. It's not like it went like this. It went flat, 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 and there it was. But what happened to me when I got the letter from YouTube to become a partner in the program, that was the first time that I looked at this as something to do, like financially in my life, as opposed to just having fun. And really, it sort of put me at a crossroads of, all right, well, if I'm going to do this and if I'm going to continue down this road, um, I can't chase the money. I don't want to chase the money. I'm not even in that space in my life. And everybody's in different spaces, but that was not appealing to me at all. What I was reacting more to when I really started taking this seriously as a business, I'm going to use air quotes here only because until I started the membership, even though I was doing all the things, I still wasn't really looking at it as a business per se. When I realized that this was a thing, I knew that I had to set boundaries for myself. All right. And I made hard choices. And I don't mean hard, it was difficult to make them. I mean, I made hard choices. And I know that today that I made hard choices, but I would not have what I have today without the choices I made. So, one of the choices was I would only create the videos that I want to create. I don't care what the algorithm says, I don't care what SEO says. I use those as tools, but they don't drive the next video I'm going to make. Right. So I was very steadfast about that. The other thing that was really important to me, and this is going back to what I was saying earlier about connection and having it be like a very high level value of mine. Uh, I made the decision from day one that I would respond to every single message that would ever be posted on the YouTube channel. Now, this was before I had a mailing list. I would respond to every single one and not just, thanks for watching. I respond to every single. For me, if this human being who does not know me at all, they could be from anywhere in the world, if they're taking the time to reach out, to connect with me, to say something to me, I'm going to respond. And so I did. And I still do to this day. It's takes a lot more time and I'm not as quick in responding as I used to be. But there's quite a difference when you have a couple thousand people versus 30 plus thousand people now. And not that they're all writing, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that was a hard decision because I am the only one who can respond to them, right? I mean, Haley, you have my voice, but you couldn't respond to them in the way that I would. And they know that, they feel it, right? So you can have an assistant. And believe me, everybody out there listening, I'm not saying don't have assistants. I do have an assistant. She helps me with other things. But because the connection is such a high value life thing for me, it has completely made a business out of nothing. Part of that connection is not being perfect. I mean, I screw up all the time on my videos and they love it. Not in that sense of she screwed up. It's like literally,
You're a real
I
person.
am told, yeah, I'm relatable. And that comes back to the hard choices that I was going to be me. And I do edit my videos, but I don't edit out the things that majority of people would edit. So, right.
Yes.
Things happen. So
And I think now that's so important. I love those boundaries that you've set because, like you said, you can have assistants and people doing things, but when it comes to those comments, that needs to be you because you know what you would respond to them in a way that actually creates that connection. And like I said before, now more than ever, connection and trust and being real and relatable is so important to growing a community, to growing a business, because there's a lot of mistrust and there's a lot of bad things happening right now. um,
yeah.
But the more that we can create positivity and real connection with people, that's what they're craving. And they want to be able to trust that whatever it is they're looking to do, that you're the one to help them get there. That's awesome that you have been able to set that and also continue to do it because yes, having 2,000 subscribers versus 30,000, like that's a lot. And to have, to sit down and to comment, that takes time and effort, but I think it's really special that you're able to continue to do that.
Well, I'm only able to continue to do that though because of the hard choices that I make, right? So, as you know, your audience probably does not know, I'm really not on any social media platform. I have a presence on all of them. I have my own name on all of them, but I use Instagram like most people use it. I just scroll through, blah, blah. I'm not posting. I don't have the bandwidth and I don't even want to have, I don't I'm not aspiring to have the type of business that requires me to chase myself all day long so I can be doing all the things. I'm also not interested in having a business that requires a large team to manage it. It's just not, it's the stage of life I'm in. I'm just not interested in that. I want to do what I want to do for as long as I want to do it. So again, hard choices, no social media for me. And a lot of people I was just in this really big mixed media art expo with 35 other artists, and they all have these fantastic Instagram sites and huge Facebook groups and all these things. And as people were, watching the workshop that I did for it, they're like, "Where can we follow you?" And I'm like, "YouTube." It's like, well, but where can we follow? Like YouTube and my mailing list. Like those are the only two places that and doing that for me has helped those boundaries and keep the guardrails on so I don't lose my mind because just like everyone who has an early stage business, everything needs to be attended to all the time at the same time. And it is crazy making. So I'm trying to mitigate some of that.
Yes, I wish that I was as good at you as setting boundaries. I would I was just talking about this in my last, interview that I just did before this, but that you don't have to be everywhere doing all the things, and it's actually more powerful if you just choose the ones that are moving the needle forward for you, but also creating the biggest connection. Bringing in whether it's the revenue or the impact or the people or whatever is driving you, focusing on those is actually what's going to be the most powerful and move you forward. So for you, like not having to do all the other social media things that you already don't like. So it's just going to not only take more time, but more energy, all of the things that come with it. So to just say,
Yeah.
no, I'm on YouTube, I'm on my mailing list, that's going to give you and the people in your community the most and best results.
I don't think this is a question you would ever ask, but I will tell you this. My definition of failure is chasing all the things all the time. You're
Mhm.
setting yourself again, it's this whole loop thing, right? You're setting yourself up for the impossible. Nobody can do all the things all the time. And because everything is so public now, like anybody can have a channel and tell you, well, this is what you have to do, and this is the way you have to do it. And building a business, especially, my gosh, it's dizzy making. So, yeah, if you're chasing it all, you're not going anywhere. You're just chasing it.
Yes. No. So thank you for sharing that. I think the other thing I wanted to ask you was like what you said in the beginning was a lot of time, women, many of the people in my audience are women, but think they have to be an expert or do this or something before they start, before they build that community. So, what would you say to someone who wants to build a community like yours, but their own, they don't feel ready yet?
Oh, you're never going to be ready, right? It's just like having kids. You're never going to be ready to have kids. All of a sudden they're there, and what do I do? Right. So that unknown, that thing that you feel like you want to step, if you have a strong enough drive to want to step into it, I would highly encourage you to do it. It's your body telling you that this is something to pay attention to. Um, will it be fantastic? Who knows? But you've got to start dipping your toe into things, and that may show up in very different ways for a lot of different people. If I had started all of this with an idea of like what I wanted to do with it, I probably wouldn't have started. Right. But that's not how I started all of this. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to do this. It was actually at a friend's encouragement. He asked me what I was doing in my retirement. And again, air quotes, sorry, but it really looks like I'm not retired now. She said, so what are you doing with your days? And I said, I'm painting papers. And she just full stop stopped and said, what? And I said, I just paint papers all day long. For what? I said, fun. And she said, you need to have a YouTube channel. People would love that. And I was like, are you crazy? Nobody wants to watch me paint papers. I mean, I'm literally just saying painting papers. Like, if she was right, I was so wrong. But
She
like,
was right. She was definitely right.
she was definitely right. But see, the thing that I thought held no value at all turns out to be incredibly valuable because it's not about painting the papers. It's because there's a human being on this red box called YouTube who puts out these things where she screws up all the time. And then when I write a question to her, she actually answers it. Right. So it's again, this full circle thing. It really is very powerful and it will look different for everybody, but it is there.
So, what are some of the things you'd say that you've learned along the way and building your community and getting it launched and doing all of the things, because it adds up and it can be a lot and it can be overwhelming. So, if you have any words of wisdom or things that you think are important to share with our audience who are building community is.
So I would say probably the most important thing for me would be to express that you need to be honest with yourself and your audience about all of it. Right. And so as you're building a community, it is grossly unfair for you to present as perfect and everything's okay and all the systems are great and everything's just, it's unrealistic. And I really feel like that was pre 2019. Like, I don't think anybody wants to be around that environment any longer. I learned a lot of things about building this community. And in truth, it's almost like I have three communities built up of similar people. Some of them are the same people, but I've got the YouTube community where I know that they're there. I see the names, I recognize the handles, all that. I have a mailing list community, and some of them are in my actual membership community, but most are not. Um, but those email, I've got to say it, the email community people, they don't just write questions, like they write to me. I'm their friend and they write to me. So, um, so I guess what I want to say about all of this is that if you're going to go the community route, if you do want to develop it, because you can do all of this stuff and not have any community at all, it'll take longer, I think, for you to grow whatever it is that you're growing. But if you take on the building of a community, it's really like a family where all the mechanisms that make a family work, you need to embody. And all the things that make families split apart, you need to stay away from. It's the same thing.
I love that you put it that way too. And part of it too is learning as you're going, right? I think what's really cool about the women that are in your paid membership in the paid community is you're learning as you go what they like, what they really respond to, what lights them up so that you can either do more of that or focus less on all the other things that maybe take up
Mhm.
time and focus more of what the people want. So you can continue to bring more people into that part of the community. And so I tend to stress that a lot with some of the people in my community or membership is don't have to build it all first. Talk to the people that you have that would be a great fit to come into it, or talk to the few that just validate it before you completely 100% feel like I'm ready, I have it done, because we're not ever going to be there, right?
Right.
You just have to get it out. Um, Perfection doesn't always mean profitable. So the more that we can just gather information, gather feedback from the people around you, I think the better that it makes it.
I agree 100%. And something that I would add to that, and again, it's another hard choice that I made, was that when I did start the membership community, and Haley knows because I used her as a sounding bird many times about this, but uh, my membership runs on a quarterly basis. It's not a monthly basis. And the reason for that is it's very hard to get to know whether you like something or not genuinely in a 1 month period of time. And because the community aspect, or I should say the connection aspect, is so incredibly important to me, and also, by the way, the people that are members, you need to give people a fighting chance. And I think 3 months is enough. The hard choice was asking the money for a 3 month versus a 1 month membership, right? But it works out. The members have come to know one another and they call each other, when we're not in sessions, and they do all these things. And I think the important thing there is, again, thinking through what is manageable, what you can actually maintain, or grow into, right? So the way that I see it is every single time someone signs up, I have 3 months to find out what they need, how I might be able to help them. If I can't help them, I can't. If they have ideas or suggestions to make the community better. I mean, it gives time for all of it to breathe and bake in. It's not a race. I mean, even though I have a vision of my business that is probably smaller than maybe most of your audience, it's okay. It's still a real business and it still operates and it runs. And I'm not in a hurry to do it right. I do try things quickly, like I get ideas and I try them. I mean, quick. Uh, but if they break, I'm not heartbroken about it. And I just say, okay, well, that broke. And I can say that to my audience because I have developed the trust and the connection with them and they appreciate it.
And I think that goes back to the being relatable and the honesty is building that trust. But also, I love the way that, you know, you launched your community and the way that we did things. It was aligned with how you wanted to do it, right? When we first started, with a lot of emails and the big launch, it felt overwhelming. And so realizing we don't have to do it that way. We can do it in a way that aligns with how you want to show up, how your audience is used to seeing you. And that way it feels not only good to you, but it feels true to your people about who you are and how you show up. Another thing that was important to launching your community was just saying, okay, no, this is what feels good to me and it still can work and just doing it my own way. And I try to stress that to my other clients too is there's all these people out there telling you have to launch this way, you have to do it that way, but really it's not going to work unless it's aligned with how you want to show up and how your audience is used to engaging with you. And so I think it's important like there's not one size fits all. It's really about what you align with and how your audience responds to you.
That's exactly right. In fact, when we did launch the community, it's the same loop, right? The curiosity, the intuition, and the trust. I had no products for a year and a half. I had no products. I had no community. I had nothing. I was just every single week emailing these group of people and letting them know that my next video was out, telling them a little story about myself or, whatever. They always tied in. But when we finally decided, okay, now it's time to have a product, I don't know why on earth I thought the best thing to start with was membership community, but whatever.
Let's go
But
big.
so Haley and I worked together. As you recall, we worked really hard together to put together a whole sequence and a whole thing and all that. And what we actually launched with was a Zoom birthday party for me. Okay. I know.
I love
Sounds
it.
so egotistical, except 500 people came, right? So, I mean, this was crazy. 500 people showed up for my crazy little birthday party that also happened to be when I started the sequence for the launch. And you're right, I got all weirded out about the number of emails. And the reason why I got weirded out wasn't because of me. I've been on every email list, any email list you all are on, I've been on, I guarantee it. But I started getting weirded out because I really do know my audience. Like I know every single thing about them. And the they're all 60 years old and older. They've had all this. They don't want to be sold to like that. They just want to be talked to like a human. And so we did. We reconfigured what we were doing. And I think this is the reason really to connect with whoever your audience is going to be and connect with them so deeply that you can make decisions like that matter, right? Because I risked losing all these people if I kept going, but my intuition, right? So the curiosity was already satisfied. My intuition was saying we've got to pull back on this a little bit or do it just a little bit differently. And we did. And we had a fantastic opening, like a fantastic launch to the community. And I couldn't have been happier. Um, yeah. So again, all of this is the same thing. It just keeps showing up in different ways.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that, Jackie. And I always like to end these interviews with how you define success. And so I love how you nodded to earlier that you define failure by trying to, chasing all the things. I think you said it a little bit differently, but that kind of hit because I think it's so true. So often we're like chasing all these things and it's someone else's version of success. It's not our own, right? Or we're trying to do all these things, but not quite getting there. So, how do you define success today?
How I define it today is how I feel very literally when I wake up in the morning, right? I feel really good. I am in such a happy place in my life because I know that I am really doing what I'm meant to do. My girlfriend says to me, a friend of mine says to me, this found you. Like everything that's happening to you right now found you. And I feel very lucky for that. I'm very grateful for that. Uh, and I feel very successful because I do. I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud, actually. I do feel very successful because I know that I'm making a very big impact on people's lives. It's crazy to me that I am. Like, I think I'm just painting papers and I'm just talking about it as I'm doing it. That's what I think I'm doing. And the letters that come in are so stunning to me, what people will share and the impact that just a little 20-minute YouTube video has made on their life. That's success for me. Like knowing that I am connecting with people I will never see, that I will never sit down and have coffee with, but I'm connecting with them in a way that already feels like we do that. So to me, that is success by my by what's important and what I value. That's what success is to me.
That's so cool. I can totally vouch for that. The things that I have read in your comments and the emails people send and from working with you, it's moving for me. It's like, wow, I only wish I could inspire and impact as many people as you do by doing something you genuinely love to do. That's incredible. And I think it's what so many people are working toward is being able to do the thing they love and impact other people. For me, it's empowering more women to be successful, to do the things like you that they love and they can build a life, build a business around it. And that's really important. So Thank you, Jackie. I always love talking with you. And
Likewise.
I think the things you shared were incredibly helpful for our listeners. So thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.